Greetings, parents, educators, and potential employers. My name is Catherine Terrio, and welcome to my lesson entitled Measurement Building on Direct Comparison to Understand Ordering, Filling, Covering, or Matching. So, what I have here for you today, I have my Smart Notebook presentation here on the left and my lesson plan on the right. So, I designed this lesson for grade 1 with an approximate duration of about 45 minutes. As you can see, I have my standards and outcomes laid out here. So the New Brunswick curricular outcomes right here, and the NCTM pre-K to 2 expectations can be found below. So obviously I wouldn't have had this up on the board for my students. I would have only had this on the smartboard. So right here is my notebook file. So I would begin the lesson by reading a book. There's a hyperlink right here. I will be providing this lesson electronically for download at the end. And normally I would click on this link right here, but I just already had brought this book up just for a little bit more of a simple lesson for you guys. So this book is called Too Tall Tina. It is written by Donna Marie Merritt and illustrated by Liza Woodruff. Something happened to me this summer. I grew. I grew taller and taller and taller. I went to see Dr. Tazo for my checkup. Wow, Tina, she said, that's some growth spurt you've had. I felt proud. But on the first day of school, I stopped feeling so great. I used to be as tall as my best friends. Now I'm taller than Nancy. I'm taller than Luke. I'm the tallest kid in third grade. So right here, I'm not sure if you guys can see this since it is a little small, but inside the red box, it says tall, taller, and tallest. So what I would do going through this with students was draw specific attention to these boxes. So this does say tall, taller, and tallest. I say hi to Mike. Hi, Tina, he says. Then he looks up at me. Whoa, I mean too tall, Tina. How's the weather up there? Anna asks. Mike and Tina laugh. I don't think they're very funny. At recess, I find my favorite jump rope from last year. It's purple with sparkly handles. I take a big jump and crash. My favorite jump rope is too short for me. Maybe Mike is right. Maybe I am too tall, Tina. So as you can see here in the purple box at the bottom of the page, we have short, shorter, and shortest. So the book does continue like that. Here we have low, lower, and lowest in the blue box. High, higher, and highest here in red. Long, longer, and longest in blue. Far, farther, farthest. And here's a bit of a comparing measurements chart. Oops, sorry for that. You can use words to compare the three things in each row. So once again, they have long, longer, longest, short, shorter, shortest, high, higher, highest, wide, wider, widest. So I would just use that book as a bit of a hook into my lesson, and I found it to be a really good way to integrate language art outcomes as well. So after that, reading the book, I would go to the next slide here. So why do we use words like these was what I would ask my students, and what do these words have in common? So I would really be looking for my students to answer by telling me that these are measurement comparison words. So we would use these when we're trying to compare different measurements. So for this, I also have a recording sheet that I would hand out my students. We would be doing a lot of physical activity in this lesson. So my rationale, once again, would be to activate students' prior knowledge of direct comparison of two objects based on a single attribute such as length, mass, and volume in order to develop understanding of measurement as a process of comparing. So that's the whole basis of this lesson, is to understand that measurement is a process of comparing things. So here at the end, in my appendices, I do have a recording sheet. So what we would do is I would have my students go through a list of activities, which I'll touch back on here in a second, as a class, and they would record sentences on their recording sheets. So the example I would give would be Miss Terrio has the shortest straw compared to other people in the class. So I will go through a list of activities with my students where they will have to compare tall, taller, tallest, low, lower, and lowest, high, higher, highest, long, longer, and longest, as well as far, farther, and farthest. And they would be required to write a sentence for each. So here are the activities that I would use with students. So tall, taller, and tallest is the first measurement comparison we see in Too Tall Tina. As a class, let's order ourselves from tall to tallest. On your sheet, write a sentence stating who is the tallest. So for example, in a class of 22 people, maybe one child named Ben is the tallest. So the rest of the class would have to write, in our class, Ben is the tallest, and they would write it here on their recording sheets. And I have other activities as well to go with the other measurement comparisons. So for short, shorter, and shortest, I use Candy in my BED classroom setting. I wouldn't use Candy in a real setting. I would probably use yarn or string. And I would separate students into groups of 3, giving them baggies with different sizes of string, and they would have to order their pieces from short to shortest, and then they would record that on their sheets as well. I also have low, lower, and lowest. What I did, and I thought it was very fun and it was a great way to get kids up and moving, was I actually played limbo with my students to see who could go low, lower, and lowest. I have a link here in my lesson plan, which I can give to you later, to the limbo song on YouTube, and I used a broom as a bit of a marker, and I had students go through to see who could go low, lower, and lowest. So once again, they would return to their recording sheet and record, for example, Ben was able to go the lowest. I was able to go low, and Carrie was able to go lower. I also have high, higher, and highest. What I did was I gave out sticky notes with people's names on them, and they were jumping to see who could jump high, who could jump higher, and then who could jump highest. They would also record that on their recording sheet. Once again, we are measuring hair, long, longer, and longest. First, I tried not to. It was hard. I didn't want students to really compete against each other, so I really tried to do something that was beyond people's control. It wasn't I was faster, I was stronger, I was better. I would really put that emphasis in my lesson for my students. We would also be jumping far, farther, and farthest, and once again recording all of this. I did this lesson with a lot of differentiation in mind. I know for some students sitting still during a math lesson is really hard, so I tried to incorporate as much physical activity into my lesson as I could. So here I have my entire lesson plan that I will create a link to for you to access, and a bit of a rationale through the textbook that I also base a lot of my research on, which can be found down here in my references, right down here. So it was the Van de Waal textbook, Elementary and Middle School on Mathematics, Teaching Developmentally. So thank you for listening, and I will make sure to provide all of the necessary links that you can use to access this lesson later on. Thanks again.